Welcome to Draw Process. I'm Ike, drawing pages of my comics here and processing about drawing and my development as an artist. This is the finished page of what you'll see me in time-lapse draw today. We have the boy very relieved, emotional that they're going to help him, and then he guides them out of the village early in the morning and through the woods to the location where he needs their help to save his people. Point A to point B and getting there. Every page is like that. Even if it's not a literal location you're going to, you are moving from one emotion or something to another. You'll notice that I am going with a rather finished drawing immediately and in this video, and I'm kind of moving away from that a bit because I'm moving towards looser drawings of the entire issue and then going back and refining them. It is taking longer that way, I think, because as you can see, if I just jump right in drawing a face, it can go pretty quickly. But if I'm doing the rough underdrawing first, I got to come back and redraw. I do think that it means my drawings lately on the next issue, because this is a while ago that I did this issue, are structurally stronger. The drawing skill is better, partly just from that change in my process. But when I look at this, I think, well, there's something good about just quickly getting it down. I do want to get faster. I want to be smooth and free in my expression. And so you capture something organic when you just let it flow. You're capturing something there, and so I don't want to lose that. The structure drawings can be stiff. Now, I don't think they are for me right now. You'll see when we get around to that. When I get through all these videos, I'll start showing you what I've been doing lately. But because I practiced like this so much, doing more of the gesture and more organic anatomy, that now when I'm going in with structure, I'm making sure that I'm still just as dynamic, but it's challenging. So one thing that's happening is I'm learning on the page by trying to apply the structure first and work things out a little more, like fold some clothing and so on. I'm learning while I draw. I'm getting better, a lot better while I draw. I'm seeing improvements that I haven't seen in a long time, honestly. Now, if you'll look at this book from volume 1 through, and it's all in this Draw Process series, but from volume 1 to here, there's noticeable improvement, for sure. But I just kind of like launched into a new level of development lately. I'm very excited about it. I'm excited to share the next story arc. It's going to be many issues, maybe 8, that are going to be around 27 pages each, and come out 3-4 times a year. So I'm shooting for October for the next one. This book is already out. It's just that the videos are lagging behind a bit because I only put out one a week. Enough about that. You'll see here, this panel, there's some dimensionality to the buildings. I found a horizon line. The buildings are returning to a vanishing point. They're not all perfectly aligned with each other, parallel, so it's okay if they go to different vanishing points. Who's to say how this village is laid out? Maybe they're kind of in a circle around the fire, and so you'll notice that they're facing different directions, but they all return to a vanishing point on the horizon line. And I set this up with the horizon line very low and intentionally rather flat, a long lens, you could say. But everything's kind of flattened a bit because I want you to see the 4 characters walking across the horizontal space there. And from there, I have this series of tiny panels, and you'll notice how quickly it's thrown together. The gestures are thrown together. Various shots of them traveling through woods and open spaces. Then the first one, the village is in the background, but then they're in the darkness of the woods. Then they're in a clearing, and then I'm just kind of working it out as I go. But I know I have 8 of them to fill, so I'm trying to provide variety, connection points. But by establishing these 4 people walking along in the panel above, these panels, even though they're tiny, they are legible. You can read them, you can understand them. It's clearly just the 4 of them going. And if that's all you get out of it is, oh, they're going, they're going, they're going, they're going, and now they're there. If that's the depth of experience, that's enough. Because the purpose is primarily to get you from A to B. I want you to see that it took time and travel to get there. And I want to do it in the smallest space possible. That was an experiment partly in this issue, is how little space can I use to do that. Now, this, that gets into storytelling. It's possible to jump from point A to point B, to skip, to not show the time in between, and it's something you do want to learn how to do, because beginners tend to think they've got to show every step in real time. The person walks over to the door, they open the door, now they walk through the door, for example. That doesn't read well. That's too slow. Or in the story, we've got to show them on the journey. We can't just let them appear at the new place. That mastery of pacing, where you know when you can skip ahead and when you have to stay with, and so on, is a storytelling skill. It's not simply a comic book skill, visual storytelling skill, but it applies to all storytelling. The way I like to think of that is what is the emotion, the experience that I want the reader to have. If they're if I have my characters and they're huddled by a fire in a cold, snowy place, then I might start by establishing the physical space that they're in and showing you, here's these characters. And I might be able to get some dialogue right there, let them jump right in. But if they're talking about how cold it is and you can see that it's cold, I might give a panel of a smaller panel, perhaps, of some of the terrain, some of the space around them, just kind of a hint of the snow and the snow piled up on the trees and so on, because I want you to get the feeling of just how cold it is. And by removing the characters and just focusing on these elements, I can evoke that directly. There's no confusion about what I'm going for, what I'm evoking in the person. You could also show their hands shaking, but this is all the interesting stuff. It's definitely subjective, but when I think about it, if I see someone's hands, shaking, and I see them shivering and turning blue, it's a different kind of feeling. I might empathize with the person, but I'm not necessarily going to feel it as much. But if I see the cold, then, and that's the experience directly, I'm directly experiencing the cold visually, then I'm feeling the cold. I'm feeling how cold that looks, right? It would be like some violent, scene. The investigator or something walks into the crime scene, and there's some bloody scene. If you actually show the reader that bloody scene, you could get a visceral reaction out of them. They could experience that directly. But if you cut away and you just show the detectives, like, you know, the face they make, you're not getting that visceral level of reaction, the direct experience reaction. You're getting an empathetic reaction from the audience. Same here with the cold example. Um, and this is subjective, but it's things you will think about. You will figure out if you're serious, right? If you're focused and you're serious about um, creating an experience for people, for transmitting an experience through visual sequential storytelling, then you'll think about these things and you'll do it in different ways. You really got to get your reps in uh, on making comics. Uh, I advocate for making comics immediately, not working on your other skills um, independently for years or something, and then eventually trying to make like a really good short comic. Uh, and people will say avoid making something really long. I don't necessarily believe that. Uh, uh, that the problem with starting with your magnum opus, starting with some grand, gigantic, voluminous thing, um, is that you might take it too seriously. You might be too precious with it. That's the problem, not the length. It's that you would be tempted to treat it with such care and precision that you'd be a perfectionist and you would be unproductive and you would miss the forest for the trees. So that's the way I see it. Um, Go ahead and make something super long, but you can't be too precious with it. You have to be putting the reps in on telling a story visually, and also drawing comics presents you with all the problems that you need to solve. Drawing figures in perspective in an environment, drawing all kinds of different environments and all kinds of different perspective situations and scale situations and all that stuff. Uh, it presents you with everything you need. Um, Along those lines, I think about uh, drawing beyond your current drawing ability. If you only draw things you know how to draw from the angles you know how to draw them, uh, then you're not going to get better, not too much better, right? And it's not benefiting the story. Instead, I do think one of the reasons that I think cinematically is I'm imagining positioning the camera or my eyes. I'm positioning myself in something that's actually happening. These characters are real people. They're actually here doing this, and I'm just capturing it. I'm just seeing it with the camera, for example, and at the angle that it needs to be at. I do think about composition. I do think about panel composition and the whole page composition and flow and all that. So I will move my camera around. I will be a director. I will choose where to put it. But I'm trying to capture it for the story's sake, for the storytelling's sake, the experience I want to evoke in the reader. That is my guiding light. That is my focus. And so uh, when you draw like that, uh, you're trying to draw things you can't draw. You're drawing thing. You're trying to put things down before you know where the horizon line is, before you know where the grid is. Don't start with the grid, like a perspective grid, and then start throwing things in. How do you know where the perspective is yet? You're just seeing it with your imagination, with your eyes, and you're trying to capture something. So that's why my drawing style is so scribbly. The reason it's so messy is because I'm trying to find something, and I don't know what it is yet. And I don't know enough about it yet, but I'm going to start finding it. I'm trying to put it down. So if you didn't know perspective, you didn't know anatomy, you could start with, well, I know that there's someone filling up this space, and they're kind of, and you could just scribble a blob. Here's this blob, this scribbly blob of something, but this is how much space this person's taking up. But there's a person back there behind them, and they're smaller, so, and they're about right here. And then in the car, there's a car next to them, and it might be about this big, but you don't even know how to draw any of that yet. But you're beginning. And as you do that, you will find relationships between things. You'll find your horizon line. You'll find perspective, and you'll relationally. I want to make a video on that to show how to um, use the relationship between things you're drawing to establish perspective rather than a grid that all things must follow. Uh, you're working out the relationship between things. So, for example, if two figures are the same height, and the horizon line is hitting them at the hip, then their hips would be at the same height. Visually, they'd be at the same height in the panel, in the drawing. Their heights, how far down their feet and their heads are, would be different because one's further away, but their waist would be the same, or their eye line, or whatever it is. And so you can use tricks like that to make to build out from one scribble, one drawing, one figure to others. And I'll do that. I don't actually find the perspective first oftentimes. This is thinking with a pencil in a way. I've heard people talk about it in a different way, where it's thinking before you start to draw. And I'm not convinced that that's the way to do it. That's not the only way to do it. Um, that's an engineering mind, but that isn't the mind, the only mind, right? The only way to do it. But you do need to have attention and focus and care and love, maybe, and hope, right? Maybe these things too, in your work that you put into it. Um, but yeah, I'm definitely thinking with the pencil. But I'm finding things that I'm imagining. I'm building it out. I apply thinking, anatomy, structure, perspective. I'm applying it as I go, as I build it out further and further until I refine it down to something. And that process can stop there, or you could keep going until that's a stylistic choice of just how refined you want to be, how polished and stylistically you want to be. Um, Lately, I have been really inspired and enjoying looking at the work of others, such as Miura with Berserk, Miyazaki with Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind, and others, Gustave Doré with those his illustrations of Dante and the Divine Comedy and all that. Uh, and especially with the manga or comic work that I look at, when I find work that really moves me, that really inspires me, um, it can make me emulate it in my work. And that becomes like a virus, like a little DNA that makes it into my work. I'm going somewhere with this because I have a point to make about this. Um, it, 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 it's DNA that will make it into my work as I keep emulating it, and eventually it kind of blends in and becomes my own. There's a process there that's okay to engage in. But I think that the best way to use inspiration uh, is not that way, right? It inspires me to do better. It inspires me on what one mind, what one person was able to do through their process of collecting these things along the way, and working in certain ways based on their personality and so on. It should inspire you to be a better you, not to be like them. Um, And that's a tough one because I will see really great inking techniques and so on, and then I'm like, wow, I should do that. Maybe I should do that, right? That's the way it's supposed to be. That's the way to do it. Um, but then I can see someone else, some pencil drawings from Rembrandt, and I can go, oh wow, those are loose. Those are that's the way to do it. Yeah, I guess if you get too inspired by one creator, look for another one that inspires you that's different. Maybe do that, inoculate yourself against the one virus with another, right? Um, because then you'll find things you love about both of them, and you'll realize that something in you resonates with both, and you don't have to just go on one path. You're trying to find your path. Just like when I'm talking about drawing, uh, bringing forth from the imagination, uh, and getting better at drawing while I do that. Uh, it's also developing my way of inking, my way of drawing. Um, Imagine drawing a horse, but you could focus on the structure, kind of harkening back to that. You could focus on simple shapes and structure and build that out, and use that to create your drawings. You could draw, well, many ways, but I imagine the person that draws horses every single day doing things, not just the structure, but looks at a horse and quickly jots it down, quickly jots down what they see in a few minutes or less. And they do that every single day. They're going to capture something about what a horse is, what a horse does, the essence of a horse or whatever. They're going to capture something that's so beautiful, that's so alive. Why shouldn't that be in comics, right? Um, like I was saying with Rembrandt's rough sketches. The, wow, and if you want to draw in a unique style, if you want your drawings to look uniquely you, which I think is a nice thing to want, I think maybe we should all want that. But you get there, not through emulation of others, and not through rigid kind of systems of learning and stuff, but drawing a lot quickly. Draw the way you draw, right? By observation, by what you see. You look at something and, oh, this is how a person is sitting there in the subway, and then you draw that, and you capture the feeling of that body, of what that person's doing, and you do it in your own unique way. And now you're doing comics, and you got someone sitting on a subway, and you bring that same kind of life to it, to everything you draw. I think that is one thing that I've been able to do. I'm definitely not the best inker, refined draftsman. Anatomy and stuff isn't the most refined either. But my characters are alive. They're in them. They're doing things. Um, and so, yeah, I think that's the way to go with it. And that covers it for today, for this week. And I'll see you in the next week. Remember, you can read the pages that have been posted into the videos. You can read all of them in the webcomic, or you can purchase the book in PDF or physical form if you want to read the whole thing. It reads okay on its own, but it's definitely a follow-up to volume 1 and 2. And here it is, the finished page. I used the ink wash, a few layers of it, a little bit of white paint for touch-ups, to get this final look. It's kind of a little more of a horror story, so this messy style works pretty well. Um, I think the way I'm working the G pen comes out, the lines that are kind of hatching lines, they come out kind of thick, and it could be I had an old nib, an old head on, to it, but that was losing some of its strength. But um, that's something I'm playing with in my current book. Is it would be nice to be able to have some thinner lines when I hatch, so that everything doesn't go in this moody direction if I don't want it to. So yeah, lots of things, always things to learn and play with in service of the story, and the storytelling, and being a storyteller, embodying and becoming that. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. Rapid fire. I don't know why my energy's up a bit today, but I'm rapid firing these ideas to kind of, I guess, give you a boost for the week. See you next time.